We've just got to the end of day 17 of the Undercover Policing Inquiry, Tranche 3, Phase 1, the questioning of Doreen Lawrence. I'm joined with Kate Wilson, who watched the whole days of evidence. What do you make of what Doreen had to say?
I mean, it's been a very long day. She had a lot to say. It got very, very emotional.
Right at the end.
Right at the end. Yeah. It was quite upsetting. And yeah, so I'm feeling a little bit discombobulated. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think it was very powerful. I think I think one of the things that really needs to be said, and what she was saying at the end, is that it's been 32 years for Doreen. So, and in a way, I mean, it was quite clear from her evidence that, you know, this inquiry is really one too many. She really should not be having to deal with this. So, she was being asked all kinds of questions about the undercover policing. And a lot of her answers were just like, I don't know about that. I wanted justice for my son. You know, and there was a real sense that, you know, that she shouldn't have to talk about this. She should be talking about Stephen. And she made the point that, you know, for 32 years, she has not actually been able to grieve because there's always more of this stuff. I was at an event last night where I heard someone talking about the Saturday mothers in Turkey, who are like the mothers of the Plaza de Mayo. They've been spent the last 30 years going out in Istanbul with pictures of the disappeared. And one of the things that they mentioned that really struck a chord with me was the use of time as a tool of repression. Statutes of limitations, dragging things out, and for everybody in the inquiry, obviously. I mean, you know, I just can't imagine what it must be like for Doreen. When I think about how exhausting it is for us, we've been at this for 15 years now, and then, you know, which is less than half of what she has had to deal with. So for me, that was, I mean, particularly with how tired I'm feeling now at the end of the day, I just can't imagine what it must be like. Another thing that I found quite striking is, of course, you know, Baroness Doreen Lawrence is now in the House of Lords alongside, I hadn't really thought of that, people like Bernard Hogan Howe and Paul Condon. Yeah, she said they not only does she have to see them, but they won't even look at her in the corridors, which was quite striking. I thought that was quite full on.
Yeah, very full on. She called for the Home Office to come and give evidence to the inquiry, the Home Secretary to come and give evidence to the inquiry. She was pretty damning about the way in which the police have behaved throughout the entire thing. A lot of, I think, like, as you say, a lot, like, we really saw a sign of the stubborn bloody-mindedness of, like, look, this is about my son's murder. This is about, it should have been properly investigated. If they spent the time they spent spying on the family, in actually investigating the murders, we wouldn't be in this situation.
I mean, that was really quite powerful, I think, because there was a lot of moments where it almost felt like she was misunderstanding what was being read to her from the files, because, like, they were talking about how, you know, this was on the agenda for the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police every single day, and they were talking, and she was just like, well, nobody told me my son's murder was on the going all the way to the top, that the Home Office is, and of course, you know, that it wasn't her son's murder that was concerning the Commissioner. It was her campaign that was concerning the Commissioner. And, it wasn't her son's murder that they were investigating. It was her campaign and who was supporting or manipulating or subverting or whatever word they wanted to use for it. There was also, there was just right from the very beginning. I mean, there was a moment where we saw Condon's interview with the Ellison Review, where he said, well, it was a concern from the beginning because the family liaison officers, who, as we've heard, were passing information to the SDS in order to spy on the family, were unable to get close to the family. And his analysis of that was not because instead of getting close to the family, these people were, spying on them, noting down information about them and passing it to Special Branch. His interpretation was they were unable to get close to the family because there were so many campaign groups around them supporting them, and that meant that they didn't have an opportunity because they had so much support from elsewhere, and that was a problem for the police. I mean, it just beggars belief, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. I thought it was I feel that Sarah Hemingway, the lawyer, had a bit of a bad day with her questioning. She had problems with the pagination and bringing up documents and stuff. I thought when Imran Khan did the cross-examination at the end of the day, he really brought it back.
Yes.
And like kind of,
which may be why it got so much more emotional and so much more powerful at the end of the day. I think that's true.
I mean, he brought out the fact that the police could have been left in no doubt that she's the kind of woman who doesn't change her mind easily, and that the idea that she would be easily influenced by campaigners was a nonsense. That that she would have been very critical of the police, and that perhaps they would be, if they were concerned with their reputation, then spying on her for those reasons was much more likely than any of this nonsense about protecting the family from campaigners.
But also, I think there was an element there that we saw also of the institutional sexism in the police, because there were points where they talked about how, Neville Lawrence was the more political one, and she made the perfectly valid point that she had children and she couldn't actually attend a lot of these meetings. So, these were assumptions that were being made about her when she wasn't necessarily even present, because she was at home looking after her children. And that, I think I think it's evident that the police underestimated Doreen Lawrence from very early on.
Very much, very clearly, yeah.
And yeah, I think that also came across in the SDS reporting, this kind of and then there's this really difficult question that we also saw yesterday around the fact that they were reporting about her separation and her divorce, and it seems possibly also passing that information to the press, although Doreen made the point that the Daily Mail was hacking her phone as well, so it's hard to know which underhand spying organisation was passing that information on. But
yeah, I mean, this thing of the families had to deal with so much and so many different layers and so many different angles of yeah, I mean, like, you really got that sense from when she was going through all this, yet another thing, like yet another one, like just on top of everything else, and she just seemed incredibly tired by the whole experience.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true, and unsurprisingly so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 32 years, and honestly, I don't, when we're on our third public inquiry, I don't know what kind of face I'm going to be pulling, because yeah, I mean, it must be terribly hard. And like I say, this is such a kind of weird inquiry to hopefully, one would hope, end it on. You had the Macpherson inquiry, which was looking into it's what she really cared about, which was the investigation into her son, and which had such powerful findings around institutional racism. And then the Ellison inquiry was kind of looking into police corruption around the Macpherson inquiry and withholding evidence, and then for the kind of the mic drop at the end of that, to find out that actually they also withheld information from the Ellison inquiry, and there was a whole other layer of police wrongdoing to unpack around this. And I mean, it was interesting at the end. There was actually a very senior police officer here today who apologised to Doreen Lawrence, not publicly. It was not something that we saw, but she was asked about it.
Deputy Assistant Commissioner John Saville,
possibly.
Yes,
I wasn't sure who it was, but I saw him sitting in the
giving side eye to Imran Khan mostly, as I could notice.
Jesus. But yes, and she was asked how she felt about that apology, and she said, well, honestly, I've had a lot of apologies over the years, and I'm waiting for one that rings true. So, I mean, I do hope, like in her opening statement to the inquiry, she said, I've had to fight, and I've had to fight, and I've had to fight, and I trust that I won't have to fight this time. And I hope, for her sake, that is true.
Yeah, me too. I'm not entirely sure it will be. If we've learned anything from the way in which the police have engaged with just not this stage of the inquiry, but every aspect of the deployment of undercover police officers, it's only fighting that's got anything out of any of them. And you can, I always feel that like witnesses are there to try and convince the chair, essentially, of his job. When we talked earlier, yesterday we were on about the fact that the chair had failed really to accept that the institutional racism was a thing. Hopefully, he's been convinced. If he can't be convinced by Doreen Lawrence about the reality of institutional racism, then I don't think there's much hope for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a massive issue, and it's such, you know, for the inquiry not to understand. And my understanding of what he said during Imran Khan's opening statement was that because the Macpherson definition of racism describes providing a service, and so, you know, like racism or disadvantaging black communities in the provision of a service. And he said, well, you know, the SDS wasn't providing a service; they were just spying on people behind their backs. So it's not relevant. That definition is not relevant to my job, which was just such a embarrassing, fundamental misunderstanding of, you know, like focusing on a couple of words that were specific to the context in which the service was investigating the death of their son. And yes, it really doesn't bode well. I mean, I think what is positive is that there are, unfortunately, a lot of families who have had experiences like the Lawrences engaged with this inquiry, and a lot of very good lawyers like Imran Khan who also have decades of experience of challenging the police specifically and society more generally on the issue of institutional racism. And I know that they will be fighting back against Mitting's willful and arrogant ignorance, frankly, in this instance. So we'll see what happens.
We will indeed. That is the end of this week's hearings at the Undercover Policing Inquiry. Well, it's a 4-day weekend. We're back on Tuesday. I forget who we've got on Tuesday, actually. I can't even think. It's been such a big one getting to this point.
Yes, it's.
Whoever it is, we'll be back then. I'll be doing it. I'll do a Twitter Spaces tomorrow now. I realize I'm very behind on my scripted videos, which I started off doing one a day. I will try and do a catch up. I've done none for this week, and I still haven't done some from last week yet. So over the 4-day weekend, that's what I'm doing. Great.
And I am
Yes.
all over the country. So I'm going to be in Manchester tomorrow at Bridge 5 Mill at 7 o'clock talking about this, what we've been hearing here and what we've been going on more generally with the Spycops, and also talking about and hopefully trying to sell copies of my book.
Disclosure. Copies available now.
And yeah, we will be going around the country. So we'll be in Glossop on Saturday, Sheffield on Sunday. We're going to Middlesbrough on Wednesday, and then we'll be in Glasgow on Friday. And then there will be a packed agenda between now and the middle of December while the hearings are going on. We'll be travelling around. So yes.
Yeah, lots of dates. If where you live wasn't mentioned, then there probably is on the itinerary at some point. So, but if you are able to go along, I really recommend it. Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, I think not. Buy the book.
Buy the book. I really recommend you buy the book. All right, thanks for joining us. We're back again on Tuesday. See you then. Bye for now.